Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the top of the hour. I'm Mark Johnston, your host for VID Conference 5, sponsored by our friends at Laurentian Bank Securities. And we have the great pleasure today of welcoming Daniel Kunz from Prime Mining. Daniel, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Mark.
I look forward to seeing your presentation. I know our audience is waiting to hear from you and a tour of the company. So I'll step to the side, give you the reins, and I'll be back for the Q&A session.
Very good. Thank you. And I hope everyone can see our slide deck here. We've got the opening slide, which has an important banner here, which is a high-grade precious metals discovery in Mexico. And what we want you to learn from this presentation is the importance of those words in their entirety. So this is a high-grade resource. Precious metals means both silver and gold with significant silver values. And then discovery is the new real focus here. We originally thought this was a well-known resource with something under 1 million ounce potential, and it's gone well beyond that. So we paused any kind of development plans that we might have had in the past, and we've completely focused on a new phase of exploration. This is new to the property, and it's really is a modern era exploration, and it's complete over the entire property. Some of the previous operators didn't have access to the entire property. So this is what we now have moving forward, and we're just entering our new season. The phase 2 drilling season has just begun with the abatement of the heavier rain season on site in Mexico. So it's an exciting time for us. The word discovery is important because we are engaged in discovery with incredibly interesting drill holes, new understanding of the resource. Now, I do have a statement here regarding forward-looking information, and this presentation may include some of that. So I would refer you to that for more information. This has been pretty exciting for me personally, but for also the company and our shareholders. The discoveries are all based on a deeper understanding of the high-grade gold and silver data set that we had both historically and now are developing our own. We already completed a phase 1 drilling just about at the end of October, and that was close to 25,000 meters of drilling. And then we used that information to focus on the second phase, and really the first phase of drilling last year was our very first effort. So we're entering our second full season here. This slide has as a central theme high-grade discovery. We are looking at a situation where most of the known original structural information, the places where the veins and the mineralization occurred, were reasonably well identified on surface, but they had very little drilling associated with them and attached with it. So our opportunity is to explore these unexplored regions, and there are tens of kilometers of opportunity to do that. And what we're seeing are significant number of intercepts that are exceeding 10 grams per ton gold, and then the accompanying silver values, which can go as high as multi-kilos per ton. So in some cases as high as 5, 6, 7,000 grams per ton silver. This is bonanza grade type material, and we know that the old historic underground mining that was done all the way back into the early 1700s, rather 1700s, early 1800s, was probably bonanza grade mining. So what we've done now is we've built a strong team around this, both technical and financial. We have strong financial backing. We have a superb technical team, both in Mexico and in our home office in Canada. And then we do have a very competent board with the skills and the kind of governance that can lead this company into a significant new place as we go forward. This is a high-grade resource. So what that allows us to do is to take the current historic drilling. We've issued a 43-101 report. It showed, this was April of 2020, so it's over a year ago. And that resource report had measured and indicated 633,000 ounces gold and 16.6 million ounces of silver. It had some inferred values as well that you can see there. And that is our starting place. We're moving off of that then and starting to step out, drill a long strike, drill down, dip. We're encountering high grade zones. We are, as I said, this is only about 40% of the structure's been drilled. So we have plenty of opportunity to move forward on expanding this resource into something more significant. Strong management background. Personally, I have been in Mexico with, I was lead independent director with Chesapeake Gold for some 17 years until about a year ago when I stepped off of that board and became a director of Prime Mining. And so I've been able to put Prime in a very good place in terms of the beginning of our activities in the coastal area, since that was also the home base for Chesapeake's operations all those years. And it's allowed us to really hit the ground running. And over the last almost 2 years now, 1 year with surface trenching, mapping work, and the second year with drilling. And now as we enter our third year with drilling. We have a couple of other real strong people I want to mention here. I mean, I could spend a lot of time just on this team alone, but I think it's worthy to point out Scott Smith. He joined us recently as our EVP Exploration. And Scott's got formidable experiences in Latin America in exploring. He is 25 years in the business, former chief geologist at TSX Gibraltar Mines. And we are just really happy to have Scott be joining us. We do continue to have Kerry Sparks as our technical advisor. Kerry's been fantastic to work with, and through all of this, those two guys are really make a strong technical oversight. In addition to that, we have a great team in Mexico led by Luis Sainz, and Luis is a strong geologic person, and he has a pretty competent team. I think there's some 10 or 12 local Mexican geologists who work there, and that's been really good for us, particularly in these times of with COVID and the travel restrictions we had over a year ago now. But it's much better today. But it's allowed us to continue to operate straight on through this these times, and allows us to be quite focused on the local community as well. The board, I want to mention just a few other things here in terms of our board. First of all, with our chair, John Murray's got ample relevant experience both in terms of corporate governance and in terms of Mexico. He currently chairs Discovery Metals as well, and they're actively drilling in a pretty significant silver play in Mexico. I'd also point out our another engineer involved, our professional geologist, Mark Prefontaine. He is a co-founder of Orla and has spent a lot of time in Mexico in his career as well. So there's significant direct experience in Mexico with Mark and his background. And I'll point out the newest member of our board, Edie Hofmeister, just joined us, and we're very delighted to have her come on board. And her expertise is in ESG matters. Spent quite a bit of time with Tahoe Resources and helped navigate through some of the issues they found themselves with in Guatemala. So it's really great to have her join our board. And as I said, with our management team, I could probably go on quite a bit with all of the other members. But I think I will say this, that these words on this slide are important to us. We're committed to independence, governance, and technical excellence. And with the team on this board, they ensure the integrity and transparency and accountability. And so it's more than just words, and we're quite delighted to have the board and the strengths we do have. The slide here now is our cap table, and you can immediately see the strong insider and institutional shareholder base. This has been a work for us, a transition from we probably had started our life just maybe 2 years ago with quite a bit of retail holdings, and now we're moving more and more toward institutional. It's on the strengths of increasing analyst coverage. So we now have 4 analysts covering the company, and you can see the list of the institutional investors. It's topped by Trinity Capital Partners, who is also a strategic advisor to us and has helped us to bring Mr. Pierre Lasson in as a strategic inside investor as well. So this has been quite an improvement in the overall shareholder structure. A lot of this is long-term oriented. Everyone seems to share our vision that this is an important asset that can significantly increase in value with the work we're doing today. We do have a current treasury of just under 30 million in cash, and we have in the money warrants and options that could generate another 30 million in cash. So we're in pretty good shape financially to get through phase 2 drilling. And we have a significant, approximately $20 million program for phase 2 that we are just now embarking on. You'll see a lot more, I'm sure, of ESG priorities, but we put words into action here. We are very, very conscious of our relationship with the environment and with the local communities, and together with the focus on the human aspect of this, the safety and the prosperity of our community. And I can give many examples of how we've been working with this, but there are several that stand out that I could mention, and a couple would be that we have 2 deep seasonal rainy period and a dry period, and they're about a extreme condition over several weeks. So several weeks in July, maybe too dry, and several weeks in October or whenever, August, and it could be too wet. And sometimes the community finds themselves with some flooding, foundation issues when it's wet, or not enough water for their stock and animals when it's dry. So we help in that area. We've had our teams come in and help rebuild foundations when the waters have washed those home foundations away for families. And we've had to fix roads with drainage problems and those kind of things. And we haul water to livestock during the stressful periods of the extreme dry. Fortunately, these are very limited periods, and then the rains come and things change, and the rains stop when it's too wet. So we are managing all of that quite well. And words into action. Health and safety is a pretty big topic across the board in the mining industry in general. It is, and in the exploration industry, of course, we need to follow pretty rigorous safety protocol, which we do. But now with COVID, the focus on health has been elevated, and we've been quite aggressively ensuring that we have a good relationship both with our community and with our workforce to ensure that we can make the right decisions on how we're managing these times, these difficult times that COVID has presented to everyone. And it's the list of topics there under the bullets are pretty understandable. Mandatory masking, seating, reducing density in this social separation and those kinds of issues, but also monitoring health of our team and the community, daily temperature checks and screenings, and of course sanitization. And we have a pretty rigorous sanitization program, and a woman who we have on our team who is got a group of people who their job is sanitation in general, both focus on COVID type style, which is the alcohol wipes, and then just keeping the rest of our facilities clean and all of that. So it's a real focus for us, and we've got a great relationship with this community. This is the Tasa Hera Hito in the photo you see, and they're voting for something. They get together and vote on various activities, including our involvement in the things we do. So it's a very good relationship. And I might point out that in Cosalá, we've encouraged all of our local Mexican young geologist teams and all of the technical guys to relocate to Cosalá. They've done that. So now we're also part of the community there. Cosalá is about 40 minutes from the site on a gravel road. But as you can see on the location here, it's about 2 hours on an asphalt road from Mazatlan. Very good access here. This is mining country. Historically, this property saw mining in its past, and the infrastructure is good. We're close to roads, rail, power. There is a power line power to site. There is a significant community that's steeped in mining and history there. And we've formed a 30-year surface rights agreement with the Hito, 2 15-year terms. We're in the first term now, and it's a graduated relationship. So as you explore, we pay so much, and then when there's construction, there'll be more, and then finally, when there's production, there are other payments. And so that allows this agreement to stay intact and then really be an asset and a key de-risking element for the property. We have a strong relationship, as I said, in the community, so that means we really do have that the relationship of being part of the community, and that's one of the important elements here, that we're not simply some outsider coming in and doing work here. We are part of the local community. I think the other parts of these slides we're going to cover, on this slide, the high-grade discovery and upside areas. There's underexplored. The drilling we completed, the 25,650 meters in phase 1, that led us to a significant roadmap, if you will, on where we're going to be drilling in this second phase. So I'll move to the next slide. This is a photograph of the property just in general, looking across to the east. The highest elevation out there is probably in this photo about 900 meters above sea level, and the lowest, which would be in the lower left part in a drainage there, might be at about, say, 400 meters. So it's a rolling hills where you might get some steep, intrusive erosional patterns like the ones in the horizon. But otherwise, it's got very good access. We can get roads in there, and there's a historic road pattern that's gone in there, and there's historic small-scale underground mining that took place back in the day. As this slide shows, there's about it goes all the way back to 1700s. This is where the name, the Los Reyes, came from, belonging to the King and Queen of Spain. And so what we are able to see with some of the production data that comes out of that era, and more importantly, out into the early 1900s, 1930s, and so on, we have production records, maps, and some of those maps refer to the 1800 work and so on and so forth. So we've been able to really get a good understanding of the small scale sort of bonanza grade historic mining that took place. And then in the center of this slide, you see the previous operators. They came in here and they drilled about just under 500 holes, about 50,000 meters, most of it reverse circulation drilling. And they were able to target some of that historic underground mining and use that as a guide on how they were going to fill their drill pattern. It was a good strategy, but what they didn't really do was go beyond that. And so it's the rest of that structural environment, and I'm going to show you an image on this, that we're focused on as well. And so what we are able to do with that historic database is direct our drilling, which we did our phase 1 drilling, into areas that'll expand that resource. And so our work continues. We were very fortunate to get in here with a full season without drilling, excuse me, in the early part of our acquisition of the property. We started trenching, and we did a lot of surface trenching, and it gave us confidence as we dug these trenches across the outcropping surface of these vein structures to have more confidence that they did indeed outcrop to surface, and they were mineralized at surface with similar mineral grades as we saw in the drilling subsurface. So that gave us a lot more confidence of what we were seeing here, the column of mineralization and the kind of epithermal environment we were in. Here's a overall property map. So this is the Los Reyes claim block, and you can see the outline of the block here. And then it's divided into some zones so that we can focus on those. There's a west zone and an east zone. Those are the so-called main zones on this slide. The central zone is the ones in the center, and then there's the outliers, the regional structural work. We're going to be doing more work outside of this main area, up in just to the north. We see structural environments here where they're similar to what the environment is in the known mineralized areas. Tends to be a northwest southeast structural pattern that we're identifying, and so that's been quite helpful in focusing our areas, looking within. It's only a few kilometers in total, maybe 5 or so kilometers away from the current heart of this resource. So it's all within reach if we were to make another deposit discovery to be able to haul it to a central mill type facility. This map here we're pretty proud of this one. This was the work that we did during that 1 year where we were mapping and trenching, and then since then have a second year of boots on the ground mapping team, nothing but going around and getting a deep understanding of what this rock type is at surface, what the structural environment is, and then where the opportunities for additional discoveries may be. And this one also has overlain on it some of the historic mine symbols. It's all these little red symbols through here. And so these are all part of some historic map or database, or even our own identification of there are small adits into the hillsides. There might be little excavations of some kind where there's even shafts where there was historic mining going all the way back into the very early times. Excuse me. This is important because we can view that as a early stage exploration activity, and it's pretty widespread, even well beyond where we have any current drilling whatsoever. So there's a real opportunity here to expand this just based on some of the historic work that took place all those years ago. And this map also, as I said in the opening, this is the first time that the entire property has been really a sole focus of a company. It's our sole asset, and we have the entire geologic environment under a single ownership. And so with those two combined, it's allowed us a chance to really understand this better than it ever has. And you can just tell by some of the detail, if you were to see an enlargement of this image, it's quite impressive, the work that these guys have done to map out structures and really start to expand the understanding of what's going on here. So what we have on this slide, a couple of things. We do have a El Rey block that we've added. We're not working on that, but it is an expansion, and it really gives us more excuse me, opportunity to the particularly the east, and then out on this eastern end of El Rey, or of Los Reyes. What this map does show is the way we've divided up the structural zones. We have the ZT, we have the Central, and then the Guadalupe. And then these structures are the focus of some drilling. You can see some of the red drill holes shown, and the pinks and greens. Those are either current or historic in our phase one. And then the true historic are the gray dots here. This would have been prior to our involvement. And so we have historic, phase one, and then the blue are phase two. And what we're planning to do with the phase two drilling is just expand along strike areas where we know we're getting good results from the phase one drilling. We also did a magnetic survey a fly over the top of this when we acquired our LiDAR data, and we discovered a buried structure in here that we'll be doing some drilling on as well. So there's a lot of new discovery everywhere we look. We've got this Fresnillo structure we'll be drilling, and we ran into that when we were drilling in here. We just picked up the Fresnillo. It shouldn't have been there, and there it was. So it's interesting how much discovery can continue to occur even with any one drill hole out here. We may be surprised by intercepting there's splays, there's stacking going on here. There's multiple stacked vein systems in here. And so these are very rich environments along these structures for additional discoveries within the context of our exploration program. Our phase two program will be about 250 drill holes and 50,000 meters or more. And so it's going to go from now until October 2022. Now, the main discovery area, or our major one, is this Guadalupe East. It's over on the eastern end of the structure. You can see the main mapping of the central structure here. And what we've shown is the original 43101, which was April 2020. Here's the resource pit outline, the inferred pit limits. And that categorized a certain amount of mineralized material based on historic drilling only. We then drilled some holes in here. You can see the red ones and green ones in here. And then based on that, we just show this conceptual outline of what a pit could do to expand and pick up some of the new area based on our drilling. And I want to point out some of this. This is bonanza grade we're encountering, and it's pretty significant. Usually find myself skipping this slide too quickly, but what take, for example, hole 18 out here, there's 35 grams per ton gold, 1,626 grams silver over 6 meters. We've got 15 grams gold and 270 grams silver over 9 meters, 9.4 meters. 8 grams gold and 726 grams over 58 meters. and so on. So we point these out because this is a substantial grade, and when you have grade, you can really put together ounces quickly with those kinds of grades, given the fact that we have such significant widths and grades inside of an open pit. So what's the importance of that? I'm going to mention for the first time in this presentation that we're also focusing on mill recovery through the open pit. Originally, we thought this might be heap leach. Heap leach is different. It's lower grade, it's crushed, it goes on a pad, you sprinkle it with cyanide, you might get 75% of the gold and 25 to 40% of the silver. Silver can get tied up on a heap leach pad. But what we've been finding is these grades are so significant that we're now focusing on sort of everything over a certain cutoff, a half a gram or higher, that would then be delivered into a mill. And those mill recoveries through historic test work that's already been completed by some of the previous operators show a recovery of mid 90s for gold and mid 80s for silver. So it's a significant change in recoveries, which enhances, of course, the entire economic scenario. So, so these things will not be lost in a heap. They'll be treated through milling, and that's a real positive. We're now starting to expand our drilling out further to the southwest here, and it's based on a cross section. This is actually a long section through the image we were just seeing. And here, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but here's the high wall of the original 43101 resource report. And then you can see the conceptual pit we laid in here is quite a bit of an expansion off to the southeast. And it's on the backs of these red stars. These are all the drill hole pierce points through this structure that we drilled during phase one. This is the Estaca vein area. And then some of the yellow that we added in here are also the historic pierce points. So it's a significant increase in mineralization. And again, keep in mind that grade we're talking about. So it's open off here to the southeast. It's open up dip above the areas that haven't been drilled, because we know that some of these things can go very near to surface. And then it's still open at depth. So I think there's a real significant opportunity out here in the Guadalupe. I will point out this cross section here, over here in this the area known as the Leica area. There's a flower structure, as they call it. This came out of the 1930 maps. So we know that the old timers were in there mining these veins, and this just gives you an idea of how these things splay and split and so on. And they grow and they become all mineralized. They all have names on them in here. That meant they were mining them. And it does say in this note that they were mined in these areas. Keeping in mind, it's a very small scale mining, and they were going after bonanza grade. So there's plenty of opportunity for us to intercept these areas and pick up much more additional opportunity. Why? Because we're going to be taking it with an open pit. And so this is really exciting opportunity for us and our investors in this possibility of growing this thing. Now, out on the west end, the ZT or ZT converging zones is an interesting area as well. So there's a potential of a large mineral metals inventory in here. You can see in this image, the grays are the historic drill holes. There was quite a bit of emphasis in this area. And the colored ones, the pinks and reds, are our phase 2 drilling. So that's the work we completed. And then the blues are what we're planning to fill in with the phase, sorry, I said phase 2, I meant phase 1 drilling, and then the blue is phase 2 drilling. You can also see a little bit more phase 2 proposed drilling out here on the San Miguel end of it. This may actually connect together at some point in here. So this is a very interesting zone. And these are true widths at surface. We trenched these areas. In some cases, it's 65 meters of mineralization at surface. I want to point out also some of the grades we see in here. 6 grams gold, 61 grams silver over 18 meters. But note in here, if you're looking at this deck and you have it, always use the ETW, estimated true width. When you come in a structure at an angle, we have to change that and get the true width by calculating in a little bit of trigonometry. So this is 12 meters, and I'm going to use these figures. I'm going to round them. 3.3 grams gold, 83 grams silver over 13 meters. 2 grams gold, 45 silver over 13 meters, and so on. Here's 4.5 grams, 68 grams silver over 7.5 meters. Here's 9 meters, 3.8 meters, and 5.6 meters. So, sorry, that's 23.4 meters. All right, so why is that important? Again, let's revisit this. We're talking again about the open pit mineable and with an open pit feeding a mill. So these grades are ideal for that. The widths are perfect. And if we, for example, have a main structure in here and there happens to be one beside it and we're not aware of it and we're drilling in there and we pick that up in the confines of an existing pit, that increases the metal inventory within that proposed pit, reduces its strip ratio of waste to ore, and makes that a much more attractive scenario. So the drilling we're doing now is designed to really enhance and expand what can be acquired through a pit and a mill. And let me show you a long section through that area. So here's Zapote South through Tahonitas. And this line here is the pit limits from the 43-101 resource report. And it's using just the historic assay data, but it gives you a sense of where how the pit was formed and how these are whittle pits, so they're driven off of data, and they basically create economic viable, if you will, or conceptually viable resources that way. Now, if you look at our phase one, this is Prime Mining Corp's phase one assays, you can see significant values below the pit. Here's Zapote 21, our drill hole here. Here's 19 over here. There's a lot of them underneath this pit, and they're elsewhere. They're in here. They're over in here. And so what we've shown in these ovals are the areas that are the opportunity to go down below the existing historic pits with additional drilling, and then also fill in between the two areas with additional drilling. Here's a place without a single drill hole in it, and here's one over in here. And so as we expand and enhance that, we learn a lot about where the mineralization resides. Here's the 500 meters above sea level line. It goes all the way across here. And so we have a lot more confidence that we can get down to 500 meters below sea level. Of course, we have to be cognizant of how deep that would be from open pits, but all of these generally are less than a couple hundred meters. So they're all within the reach of an open pit, and yet they are well within the defined epithermal boundaries of this mineralization, somewhere between 500 meters above sea level and about 700 or 800 meters, depending on where we're at. One of the things that we also have here are these new zones for discovery. And outside of the three main corridors that I just talked about, which are the heart and soul of where our big ounces will come from. But because there are other areas like Mina 2021 have never had a single drill hole in them until we drilled them in phase one. We got 6 holes into it, and we had a major discovery there. The first thing that we found was that there was about 2.3 meters of just under 30 grams per ton gold and 1,100 grams silver that we discovered in an old historic adit that was in this area. So we poked some holes in there. We have that data available, but these drill holes were designed, the 6 holes we put in there, to really get they were the very first, so we have to kind of get an idea of what the structure may be in there at and all these kinds of issues. So those 6 holes have helped us now, and we're already drilling into phase 2 at Mina with holes based on that information. So as you can see, we're learning as we go. We have a dynamic modeling process, and we are really trying to focus on letting the science, letting the technical information lead the drilling in real time. And so that's been really productive for us. And we think this area has the potential to be a significant new discovery. And why is that? Because where we found this bonanza grade, the significant grade here, was 500 meters above in the geologic column where bonanza grade was found down here at Guadalupe East. This bonanza grade was found at 540 meters above sea level, and up here in Mina, it was at 1,080 meters above sea level. We're trying to learn with our drilling today whether that difference means that the mineralized column can, for Mina, go all the way down into that lower depth below that area. So that's going to be a real exciting and fun time. Our geologists are really thrilled to be able to put some holes into that area and see where that's going to take us. The other thing that we have here is these regional structures that come through here, and you can see them on this image. They're northwest, southeast trending, which is really in line with what they should be. And they collide here or intersect with the Guadalupe structure. So this is an interesting zone. It's got lots of complexity in the sense of some of the structural faults and different issues. It's likely due to the structures being in there, being mineralized, and then getting some sort of movement or breakage and all those issues to go geologically with it. But we don't see any real serious major up and down drop blocking. We do see some, but it's not like it's a graben or it's a major uplift or downlift or so on. So we're confident, we think, that the mineralizing events that came through here, and there may have been about 40 of them, 4 of them, and each pulse that came through there deposited a certain amount of metal values. In one case, in an assay we have in MENA 2021, we have 0 gold and 4,100 grams silver. So it is a significant silver event that mineralized and enriched that, we think. These events could come through the entire system at one time, and then another event will come through and so on, and leave various kinds of mineralization evidence behind, if you will. And so that's another reason we're talking about discovery here. This discovery is important because we don't have all the answers, but what we're learning today is that any drill hole we drill out here has a potential to find either a splay, discover something new about a structure. Does it pinch and then it widens back out again? So in all of that, this is a pretty exciting time for us. So our strategy is to work on this Guadalupe. It has a high priority. It's the Estaca and the San Nicolas San Manuel. This is our #1 target. The second is to delineate the Z Tajonitas. That's our #2 target. And then the Central. And these two combined with the Guadalupe will be our main focus. And then as we start to move a little further out on the less defined areas, we have these regional discoveries. And so to wrap this up, these words have been carefully considered. You know, we are in an evolving district scale high-grade gold silver project. We think that the discoveries that we're seeing support significant upside and resource expansion. We are in the proximity of major mining operations just nearby, and we have a first-in-class board and management team. We are involved in meaningful ESG programs that provide major de-risking to the overall project, and we have a strong treasury and shareholder support base. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Mark, and I guess coordinate some Q&A.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for a great tour through their company, Daniel. Lots of information to unpack there, and I think that was a very well-rounded overview. Thank you for the time there. And of course, our question and answer column's been quite busy for the last 20 minutes or so, people teeing up to ask a few questions directly from the source. So I'm going to launch in here and ask a couple of key questions that jumped up at the very beginning. Is there any planned drilling, Daniel, at El Rey in phase 2?
No.
No plan for that. Okay, thank you for that. Your original plan, it says, called for production. What changed?
Well, that's a great question. We were going to go to a quick small-scale heap leach. We thought at the time 3 years ago, or just under 3 years ago, that the market would finance something like that. It would go into a heap leach operation, make some cash flow. But when we got there and we did a full assessment, we brought several very strong senior geologists to the site. We did several visits. It became very apparent in the very early stages, and I've been there on all 3 or 4 of those different visits. This thing was just barely unpackaged. One of our slides, the title is "Just Scratching the Surface," and it's true. So we said, hold on, hit the pause button, and what we'll do is explore. Well, who knew, based on phase 1 results, that we'd be doing a phase 2 and possibly a phase 3 of drilling, and this is the beauty of discovery.
Fair enough. Never a dull moment in the business, I'm sure of that. What would you say, looking back, Daniel, would you attribute the major drivers of value to date as?
I think it's the expectation now that this is a multi-million ounce silver and gold. And obviously the central metal is gold, but it has a significant silver component to it that should be getting some recognition in terms of people who want to play it for both of those metals. And what we have been seen to have demonstrated is, if you look at our news release stream on the technical releases that we've had, it is a significant accomplishment. High grade, major widths and thicknesses, massive disclosure in areas, 12, 13 holes in each area kind of thing. So it isn't like we're just hitting a drill hole here and one there. It's an extensive program that has been yielding very good results, and I think the market gets that.
Okay, thank you for that very much, Daniel. Question about Mexico as a jurisdiction. We're curious, any change in the political risk with Mexico, Daniel, as others have reported increased interference, Fortuna being one, for example?
I think it's important to keep in mind that in the broader sense, there'll always be that kind of question about political change, the winds, and so on. And
Mhm.
you see attempts to maybe change royalty structures, tax structures, and so on. But at the end of the day, it's still a very good jurisdiction. Interference, I feel sorry for those guys in some way. I don't know any of the details, but I do know that it's also important to have a strong local relationship
Mhm.
and to be part of that community in the best way possible. And are we going to be able to, fight off any of the big political changes, you might say, in the mining industry in general, where
Mhm.
they try to retax or change all those? Probably not. But um, at the end of the day, it's still a very good environment, and on a comparative basis, it still ranks quite highly.
Okay, thank you, Daniel, for that. Speaking of community, a question here about your relationship in the community. Can you tell me what's unique here?
I think it's the fact that our 12 geologists live there. One of our top guys lives in Coastal, and his family does, and
Mhm.
his brother runs an ice cream business, and he's a pretty popular guy, as you can imagine. Hot climate like that, and some ice cream bars.
Uh-huh.
Um, so when we go do things, we do it with the recognition, like in the community, if we need additional labor or if we need material supplies or whatever,
Mhm.
they know it's their brothers, their neighbors, their friends who are involved in all of this. And sometimes people can come in. Mining companies used to have this reputation back in the day. I'm very proud of our industry, how we've changed this. But
Mhm.
we used to be, we just sort of had, I don't know if it was arrogance or what it was, but we know what we're doing, stay out of our way. We come in, we do our thing, and then we go. And we forget we did then. It's much better now
Mhm.
that the stakeholders are really just right next to us. They're the ones that live on the property. They're the ones who are nearby. They're the ones who are downwind and have to tolerate our noise and our dust. So there's a broad understanding that's evolving in our industry, and thank goodness.
Mhm. Fantastic. I appreciate that very much. When do you think we can expect to see next assay results? I know that's a very difficult topic these days with delays happening, but is there any sense on your part, Daniel?
So the phase one, phase two results, the new ones,
Hmm.
is that? Yeah. So we are just getting started.
Okay.
It'll be in the new year. It's likely going to be first quarter. What we have to do, unfortunately, well, fortunately for our team, but there's a Christmas break that starts December 20th and goes to the 4th of January, I believe,
Or, yeah.
and that'll slow things down. But what we will have is a strong program in the new year and in the first quarter.
Okay.
I can't really say when.
Mhm.
What we will, I think you'll see from our past, our history is
Mhm.
when we release something, it'll be significant. It won't just be a drill hole here or there. It'll be a significant improvement in the data that the market has. So I'll
Okay.
just say first quarter or a little later.
Fair enough. Fair answer. Thank you for that. Just before we close out, I always like to hand the floor back to you in an open way to say, is there something else that we should be sharing with our audience? Anything we haven't touched on or that's come to mind, Daniel?
I don't think so. I think this is a pretty easy to understand company when you boil it down to the key components here, and that is that it's well financed and well backed.
Mhm.
It's got an excellent team both on the ground in Mexico and managing it from the various parameters. It's got a
Mhm.
fantastic board who are committed to excellence and governance. So you have all of the basic elements of success right there, and then you throw at it the wild card in any business of ours, and that is it's got a fantastic property. So geologically, we have not had any disappointments. This thing's been continuing to give and give and give in terms of are we on track, understanding it, and so on. Absolutely. You
Mhm.
always have a series of holes, and you can look at every single drill hole on our website, and some of them don't hit, and so on. But if you look at the percentages, we've done very, very well here. And as we go forward into phase two, stay tuned.
Very good, Daniel. A very fair and thorough overview of the company at Prime Mining. I appreciate your time. I know our audience is very grateful as well to have been able to touch base directly with you for some of these key questions. I wish you and yours a very happy holiday season as well, and we'll be watching the company very closely into 2022.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Daniel. And for the rest of us here online, just a note that as we close this session, your survey comes up. Please provide your feedback as you can. And at the top of the hour, we have Oh My Gold featured next. We'll look forward to seeing you there. Thanks so much.